Hello and welcome to Crypto Interviews, and in today's video I've got Forrest with the YouTube channel of Hashoshi joining me once again for the third time on this channel. We spoke about Ethereum the first time he was on, then about Polkadot last year, and that video has absolutely exploded. It's got a lot of views, so do check it out. Again, the link will be found in the description of this video, and also in the pinned comment of this video you'll find the link to Hashoshi's YouTube channel. Is a very technical savvy person. He talks crypto, he talks blockchain, and he talks Ethereum too. He's an Ethereum developer, not part of the core team, but he's like an Ethereum consultant. So
yep.
Welcome Forrest. How are things? How have you been? And today we're actually going to be talking about ETH 2.0. So how excited are you about that?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. And I think it's an exciting time for a lot of people because we're here sitting in phase 0 of Ethereum 2.0, and so things are starting to progress. It's been a long time coming for people, and I think there's a hefty debate out in the market about what Ethereum 2.0's future holds based on when it delivers and all the competitors that there are now. It's a much different place than the first time Ethereum came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And from my understanding, with Ethereum going through all these different phases before 2.0 is fully functional, is it true that they're going to get to a point where there's going to be some proof of stake and then proof of work is also going to continue, like kind of hand in hand? Or will it be like a complete switch over?
So I think that, at least notionally, the place that we're going is right now you have these two very separate, totally different networks that exist now. You've got the Ethereum 2.0 beacon chain, as it's called, which will sort of be the main chain when you start to get into parallelism and sharding, when there's going to be basically multiple networks kind of feeding into one with Ethereum 2.0 in the future. And then you also have the current Ethereum proof of work chain that works, as it always has, and has all the DeFi projects and a lot of the other dApps that you probably interact with on a day-to-day basis. But down the line, as Ethereum 2.0 begins to come to fruition, the current Ethereum mainnet that we're all used to today that uses proof of work is going to become a singular shard, basically get absorbed into Ethereum 2.0's network. And that means that it will be basically performing its own part of consensus, if you will, during the different epochs. It's EPOCH, which is kind of how the Ethereum 2.0 network is going to work. Instead of blocks, it's going to be separated up into epochs, which are a multitude of blocks. And so Ethereum 1.0, as we call it today, the proof of work chain, is going to get absorbed into Ethereum 2.0 in one of the future phases.
So it's interesting you are saying that about the epoch. So how will the transactions actually work then? Will the transactions still be part of a specific block, or will they all be part of one epoch?
Yeah, so it will still, at least according to the spec, you'll still be able to sort of create this construct of blocks, if you will. But instead of one, round of consensus, if you will, like we have in proof of work, where you have miners all competing to solve the proof of work challenge. They find a value by expending compute resources and guessing that meets a certain criteria. They broadcast that they won and they pitch a block, and that gets accepted by the network. That's one whole consensus cycle for each block. Whereas here, the way that sort of consensus is measured, if you will, or organized, is going to be, I think, in groups of 32 blocks, if I'm correct in my remembering how it's spec'd out. And so that'll basically be how it is. And it makes sense because transactions will be validated much faster, and blocks will also be created much faster because there's a lot of stuff going on at once in Ethereum 2.0. So it's not a linear single canonical chain like we have today.
Nice. And is there any association with the fact that you need to stake 32 ETH and there are 32 blocks, or is that just a coincidence?
I don't think there's any purpose to that. I think it's more so, these are sort of oft used numbers, like round numbers in the tech world, right? Like you buy a flash drive, 8, 16, 32 gig, 64 gig, right? A lot of that stuff you see also shown in other pieces of technology, basically because of their roundness and the ease of multiplication. I think, 64, I think there are going to be 64 total shards available in ETH 2.0. 32 ETH is the minimum threshold to be a validator. And I think 32 blocks per epoch, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 1,000% sure on that one, but I think that's the case. So, I don't think there's any rhyme or reason, but I might be wrong.
So you need 32 ETH to be a validator, but what if you're a nominator? What if you just want to stake to a validator? How many ETH will you need then? Is there a minimum requirement?
Yeah, so I think what I'm starting to see, and what you probably have noticed if you're looking online, you have even to be a validator, but also just to stake, you have a lot of options now that don't require you to have any minimum amount, right? So
Yeah.
Rocket Pool is an interesting example of that. Even some centralized exchanges, one of the only exchanges these days that I trust to hold on to my crypto for any period of time whatsoever is Kraken, because I think they have one of the best security postures in terms of things I can control to lock down my account. So highly recommend if people want to check it out and look at how they secure their stuff. It's great. They're offering the ability to stake your ether and earn returns without having to worry about anything. But also you can on your own come up with create a pool with your friends and stake ether too.
All right. No, that's good. And how is that going to solve the transaction issue that we've got at the moment? Because the transaction fees are really, really high. I mean, um,
Hmm.
anybody who's trading on Uniswap has gone through the pain. I'm sure you've probably tested it
Yeah.
as well. And you've seen like when you have to pay like $25, $35, even $50 in some cases, especially if you're routing through different ERC20 tokens. Like say, for example, you want
Yeah.
to get USDT, but it goes through the routing. So you're paying those extra fees. So how is that going to be managed? Is it going to be sorted? I assume it will be, but how will they actually sort that?
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because one of the things that makes Ethereum transactions secure and final and makes them, I guess, makes the network work in the first place is because you have to pay your way to pay for the compute resources and the storage and the validation of these deterministic functions on the network when you execute or call a function in a smart contract. And that's how you pay gas, right? There are prices for every operation on the network. And so there's going to be a whole sort of re-architecture or redesign of the economics of transactions, inclusive of smart contract transactions, when Ethereum 2.0 becomes usable for smart contracts. The fact of the matter is that it's not enough to say we'll just wait until Ethereum 2.0 to worry about transaction fees, because the reality is that it's probably 2 to 3 years from now that we see smart contracts and what we're doing today on Ethereum 1.0 working on Ethereum 2.0. So we've got a ways to go. And that doesn't mean that Ethereum is totally screwed, like a lot of people might say, but it also doesn't mean that Ethereum is going to continue to be the unilateral sole dominator of all decentralized application use cases, which they have been for a long time.
Yeah.
Now is an opportunity for Elrond, Cardano, Polkadot, Cosmos. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch. Zilliqa, whatever. All these networks to start to find their niche and take some market share while we wait for Ethereum. And so you start to see other networks that are Ethereum compatible, like Matic, for example, which is a layer 2 in many ways.
Yeah.
Those types of projects are going to be important to bridge the gap between what we have today on Ethereum and DeFi and allowing innovation to continue until Ethereum 2.0 happens, in my opinion.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting you said that, and with regards to these other projects, for example, Polkadot, we know that they're focusing on interoperability, same as
Mm-hmm.
Cosmos. But I know that Polkadot, Gavin Wood did actually say that he's planning to make Ethereum interoperable with Polkadot. So that means we're going to be seeing that interoperability between NFTs, dApps on Ethereum, and so on, and Polkadot. So do you think Ethereum needs 2.0 for that, or can it do it at the moment with 1.0?
Listen, I think it would be a really brilliant idea to find a way to interoperate between Ethereum's proof of work chain and the I guess the developments that are happening in the Polkadot world. I think it would be smart and it would benefit both parties, because inherently a lot of the work that's being done on Ethereum now will still be compatible and will still have broad application as you move to Ethereum 2.0. So it's not like any work that you do on Ethereum now is useless and will not translate later. It will not be exactly perfect. You will have to do work to sort of re-architect and
Yeah.
change your work, but it's not going to be a total overhaul. And that being said, I ran a piece recently on my channel about how it doesn't make sense at where we are today for projects like Polkadot and Ethereum to act like it's like only one, their success is mutually exclusive, because it's
Yeah.
not. I think they have so much more to gain by working together than they do from competing. And that I think is a great point.
Yeah, and I always say that to the people on my channel as well. I mean, you see videos there saying, Polkadot is the Ethereum killer, but it's not. I mean, it's all about interoperability here, and there are different concepts as well, to be honest. And I
Hmm.
understand that Polkadot are trying to build this huge ecosystem, and they're going to have their own smart contracts. They're going to have bridges. They're going to have all of that. But yeah, I mean, the other thing that I wanted to talk about with regards to Ethereum is democracy, because I'm a huge Polkadot fan, and democracy is a big point on Polkadot. Any proposals that come, be it from a dev that's contributing to GitHub and they're
Hmm.
submitting that proposal, it then gets voted by the community by locking up your dot for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
How will that work with Ethereum? And do you know if they're going to have these kind of proposals mechanisms or democracy mechanisms?
Yeah, and so Polkadot has done that formally, right? Where you have bonding of dot in order to vote for community governance, which is huge and it's important.
Yeah.
Ethereum today does that in a way, right? Like there's been a whole debate for over a year now, if I remember correctly, over EIP 1559, which is the whole move to alleviate some of the challenges with ETH 1.0 scalability, and then also enforcing sort of downward or like supply deflation of Ethereum, basically, of Ether, by um, burning a base fee from every transaction, right?
Yeah.
That's been debated for a long time, and I think they've been looking for sort of broad community support. But I will say Ethereum needs to work on the the means by which average community members, people that aren't involved in core development, people who don't have startups in the Ethereum space, people who maybe don't hold a lot of ETH, to still have a larger say. So I don't know of any dedicated, like almost like DAO plans within Ethereum to manage governance, but I have a feeling that will be a priority as they start to ship the major components of Ethereum 2.0 down the line. I don't see a way that they can get around doing that.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good. And yeah, I mean, overall, like, what's your take on the future of 2.0? If you were to say, how optimistic are you that they're going to, I don't know, not they're obviously going to be around, but how optimistic are you that they're going to be competing with all these other giants, say in 2-3 years down the line, in terms of smart contracts, NFTs, transaction fees, interoperability, and anything else?
Yeah, so I'm very optimistic that ETH 2.0 will deliver what they've promised. That's no secret. I've always been a believer in Ethereum, even though I'm also a believer in a lot of technically competing projects, because
Yeah.
I don't believe that the future is a one protocol solution. I think
Yeah.
interoperability between many protocols that each serve a specific niche is what's going to happen. But that being said, I do think that the tech behind Ethereum 2.0 takes a lot of the I guess commonplace examples of how you can sell Ethereum from other projects, right? You look at Zilliqa as a great example. When Ethereum, before Ethereum really had market issues scaling, which was sort of around the time of CryptoKitties, Zilliqa had already created this whole concept of you sort of linear scaling via sharding, right? Where the more nodes that become part of the network, the faster transactions per second you can get, because of the way that they structured the network. And I don't want to get into too much detail, so I'm trying to avoid doing so. That's an example. So Ethereum is like, well, maybe for an ETH 2.0 spec, we can do, we can use sharding. And so they've implemented a bunch of different things where you're sort of running many blockchains in parallel to validate transactions and then feed back to a main beacon chain, which is what exists in ETH 2.0 today, that beacon chain. And then you can look at other examples of things that have been developed that are super powerful, like rollups, like ZK rollups. Those, which in
Privacy.
effect, yeah, for privacy, but also for batching, right? You can batch a large group of transactions basically in effect with one signature that are all valid and final without having to individually process each one, right? And like those types of things in conglomerate create a much more scalable network. And I think the estimates, and let me just say, even for someone who believes that Ethereum 2.0 will be delivered, I take all these metrics and guesses with a grain of salt. The idea theoretically in testing is that they could get 100,000 transactions per second. Whether they get that in mainnet is questionable to me. But, you see a project like Elrond, who had a lot of really, like, I thought, outrageously bold claims of scalability and testnet. But when they delivered the mainnet, even though it's not like the most heavily used network, they are getting really impressive scalability numbers. So, it really depends, and we're just going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, but what about the users? Like you mentioned Elrond there, but I know, like, for example, Neo had suffered with congestion
Yeah.
when they had a lot of traffic, and then transactions were clogged and they were in a queue, and you could wait like hours before you could see the transaction go through. I mean, do you think we could see something like that ever happen to Ethereum with 2.0, seeing as it's going to move to proof of stake? Or
Look, the way that I see it is, and this is my major frustration, I think, with the crypto space at large, is because when someone invests in a project and becomes emotionally tied to the project, people forget that this is a nascent tech space equivalent almost to the internet bubble,
yeah,
where the same rules apply to all of these startups. Your tech, even if it's well designed by brilliant people, will have bugs.
yeah,
Those bugs could ultimately cause a network to fail and require an update. Those are normal. And the other thing is that these startups have the same odds of failing altogether and completely dying as any other startup on earth.
yeah,
So it's like, if you're like a super hot startup and you make a ton of money, you can go belly up. And same as a protocol is established as Ethereum. So, have no illusions that this is going to be an easy path without any scary times for every project, including ones that are succeeding now. Polkadot, Zilliqa, Elrond, they could all have issues, and they have, and they will continue to. That's how you build good software.
No, I totally agree, and that's probably the reason why it's taking so long to see these parachain auctions launch, because I'm sure Gavin Wood and the Polkadot team are very worried about the fact that if there's going to be any kind of bug, it's going to be people
Yeah,
losing their money, right? They're gonna losing their crypto. It's as simple as
yeah,
that. So yeah, I
totally.
mean, there's always risks. But any last words on ETH 2.0 that you'd like to share with the community?
I think that my main word of advice would be, don't fall into the trap of um, maximalism in any direction, right? If you love Ethereum and you believe in Ethereum 2.0, don't use that belief as a means to write off all other really useful pieces of technology that are out there. And vice versa, if you're a Cardano fan or you're an Elrond fan, don't fall into the trap of looking at statistics that have been curated to make your favorite network look better than the competition. Admire and learn from and try and cultivate cross-community collaboration, because if the users do it, then the projects will do it, and it's better for the overall goal, which I think all of us share, which is to have usable, quality user experience, makes the world a better place, decentralized technology. Like that should be the ultimate goal. So that's just my 2 cents overall.
Very, very wise words. Cool. Thank you very much for that and for your input. I hope that the viewer, will appreciate it. And if you have any sort of questions, just drop them below. I'd appreciate that. And I'll try to get an answer for you. If it's not going to be me, I'll try and ask Forrest to provide an answer, but we'll try and get one for you. So thank you very much once again. And I hope to see you soon, and we'll keep in touch with regards to more crypto development. Hopefully a Cardano video next time. Take care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye bye.